I'll be covering the full year 2014 financial results, beginning with the net income outlook. So $468 million better than planned, and $198 million ahead of the prior year. Our base revenues were $314 million favorable to plan, primarily driven, I'll show a bit more detail about this, by the cold weather that we experienced during the polar vortex. Our operational efficiency, or O&M expenditures, we're ahead of the plan to reduce by what would have been $300 million through 2014. And because of the financial performance, we have paid down debt at an accelerated pace, and so you see lower overall interest expense, $100 million below plan as well. So I wanted to spend a minute to cover some of the trends that we saw during the year. This chart shows the bars that represent the actual revenue, non-fuel revenue that we received each month. And the line represents what our budget was. So you can clearly see in January when we had the polar vortex where we were well ahead of plan, and that carried over into slightly above for February and March. The rest of the months we were essentially on plan. If you move into the next slide, thank you. When you look at our fuel rates, what you see is because of the fuel cost adjustment, when we have months where we have significantly higher fuel rates, those are collected and spread over the future months. And then overall, $468 million favorable net income. Then as we transition into the statement of cash flow, what you can see and would expect is our overall operating cash flow as a result of that strong performance on the income statement shows up as $750 million worth of favorable operating cash flow. In the investing section, while we were favorable $525 million, I'll tell you that was predominantly related to major projects, specifically where we have transitioned from a clean air project to a gas project at Paradise, where we now have just spread that capital spending over future years. All the investment that was needed in the maintenance of our existing facilities, we executed that essentially within plan during the year, investing almost $2.8 million in the system. And so overall, as you would expect, based off the favorable operating cash flow, as well as lower than planned investing, that our overall financing activity was favorable to plan. Almost $2.3 billion less in terms of financing activity, and that shows up directly in terms of our total financing obligations, where we were $2.3 million, or ended the year at $26 billion of total debt and $23.6 billion of statutory debt, and that was an absolute reduction of $1.2 billion. And so if you go back in history, TVA's peak in terms of overall statutory debt was roughly $28 billion, and so we've reduced that by almost $5 billion. The final payment for 2014 would represent $533 million that we would have paid to the particular states, and then in some cases to counties or municipalities. And that will be increasing in 2015 because of the increase in revenue, and the estimated payment would be $542 million in 2015. This chart shows the particular allocation across the different states. The box is highlighted here in 2014 and what the number looks like in 2015. What you can see is while TVA's overall in lieu of tax payments are increasing from year to year, that doesn't necessarily mean that for each state that their particular allocation of that would increase. As sales go up or down in any particular state, that can influence their allocation.